She was going blind. Then doctors injected something into her eye, and now she can see in the dark for the first time in her life. That is just one of many breakthroughs happening right now. A new bowel cancer immunotherapy just hit. 0 relapses after almost 3 years. Solar power saw the largest growth ever observed for any energy source. And scientists figured out how to put new batteries into your sick cells. I'm Ben, and this is the good news the media ignored this month. A 6-year-old girl in the UK named Saffie just had her sight restored thanks to a single injection into each of her eyes. Saffie was born with a rare condition called Leber's congenital amaurosis, or LCA. It's caused by a mutation in a single gene that prevents cells in the eye from making a protein essential for vision. Babies born with LCA have poor sight from infancy, no vision in low light, and most of them go fully blind by adulthood. Doctors told Saffie's family she would be completely blind by the age of 30, but here's what makes this story remarkable. The treatment, called Luxturna, is the first gene therapy of its kind for LCA. It works by injecting a healthy copy of the faulty gene directly into the eye. And it's a one-time procedure, not something you have to take for the rest of your life. Saffie had her first eye treated in April 2025, just before her 6th birthday, and her second eye in September. Her mother described the change as someone waving a magic wand. Saffie can now see hazards, climb on playgrounds, take part in everyday activities, and most importantly, see in the dark for the first time of her life. Researchers at Great Ormond Street Hospital have now followed 15 children treated with Luxturna between 2020 and 2023. The youngest children showed the most improvement because the treatment was delivered during a critical window of brain development. Doctors stopped short of calling this a cure, but the results so far are nothing short of life-changing. And as you are about to see, sight isn't the only sense being restored. In the largest trial of its kind, doctors have used a single injection to restore hearing in people born deaf. The therapy targets a condition called DFNB9, caused by a mutation in a gene called OTOF. Without that gene, the tiny hair cells in your inner ear can't pass sound signals to your brain. Children born with this condition are essentially in complete silence from birth. The treatment works just like Luxturna. A harmless virus carries a working copy of the OTOF gene into the inner ear through a single injection. And the results are remarkable. 42 patients, ranging from 10 months old to 32 years old, received the therapy at 8 different centers. After up to 2.5 years of follow-up, 90% of them had their hearing restored. Half of them reached completely normal hearing levels. The strongest results were in young children. One 7-year-old girl regained nearly full hearing and was able to have everyday conversations with her mother just 4 months after treatment. And the team is already adapting the platform to target other genes that cause deafness, including the most common one called GJB2. 2 senses we have always considered permanent, if lost, both being restored. We are clearly entering an era where conditions that have always seemed uncurable simply might not be anymore. But the breakthroughs don't stop there. Cancer immunotherapy just produced one of the most stunning results in years. Researchers in the UK gave patients with a specific type of bowel cancer a short course of immunotherapy before surgery, instead of the usual chemotherapy after surgery. Just 9 weeks of treatment with a drug called pembrolizumab. After 33 months of follow-up, none of the treated patients had a return of their cancer. Not a single one. To put that in perspective, around 25% of patients with this type of bowel cancer normally relapse after standard treatment. So the gap between expected and observed is huge. The trial is called NEO-PRISM CRC. It focused on 32 patients with a specific genetic profile called MMR deficient. Initial results showed that 59% of patients had no signs of cancer at all after the immunotherapy and their planned surgery. One patient described it as the cancer simply melting away. What makes this approach different is the timing. Most cancer drugs are given after surgery to mop up whatever is left behind. Here, the immune system is triggered before surgery while the tumor is still in the body. That seems to teach the immune system how to recognize the cancer, so any stray cells that escape during surgery don't survive. The trial is small, and larger studies will be needed before this becomes standard care. But for a type of cancer that often comes back 0 relapses after almost 3 years, is a result worth celebrating. Now let's switch gears for a moment to a story about an animal that is melting hearts across the United States. The Smithsonian's National Zoo just welcomed its first baby Asian elephant in nearly 25 years. Her name is Linh Mai, which means spirit blossom in Vietnamese. Linh Mai was born on February 2nd to a 12-year-old mother named Nhi Linh and a 44-year-old father named Spike. At birth, she weighed 308 pounds. Yes, you heard that right, 308 pounds. By the time she made her public debut on Earth Day this April, she was nearly 500 pounds, gaining about 3 pounds every single day. But her start in life was not easy. Shortly after birth, her mother showed signs of aggression and had to be separated from the calf. That's when something remarkable happened. A 52-year-old elephant named Swarna stepped in as a surrogate mother. Keepers say she sleeps next to Linh Mai, wakes up through the night to check on her, and is teaching her how to use her trunk for eating, drinking, and breathing. And here's why every single Asian elephant birth matters this much. There are fewer than 50,000 Asian elephants left in the wild, and their population has dropped by about 50% over the past 75 years, mainly because of habitat loss. Asian elephants are also pregnant for almost 2 years, so the population recovers very slowly. Keepers describe Linh Mai as sassy with a little bit of attitude. Honestly, after 25 years of waiting for a baby elephant, the National Zoo deserves a little drama. Now let's head to South America for another encouraging environmental story. Scientists in Brazil have made a discovery about a tree that could change how we clean our drinking water. Researchers at Sao Paulo State University found that seeds from the moringa tree can remove 98% of microplastics from drinking water. And here's the best part. The extract they used can actually be made at home. Microplastics are pretty much everywhere now. They have been found in our blood, our organs, and even our brains. They come from car tires, paint, textiles, and degraded plastic packaging. And most water treatment plants weren't designed to filter out particles this small. The standard chemical for removing them is called alum. It works, but it has problems. Producing alum requires strip mining bauxite. The process produces large amounts of toxic sludge, and improperly used it can raise aluminum levels in drinking water, which has been linked to neurological issues. That's where moringa comes in. The tree is sometimes called the miracle tree because its leaves and seeds have been used for centuries for nutrition, medicine, and water purification. The researchers ground up the seeds, made a salt-based extract, and tested it head-to-head against alum. Both removed over 98% of PVC microplastics. But moringa worked better in alkaline water and across a wider range of conditions. Moringa grows fast, doesn't need much water, and thrives in tropical regions where access to clean water is often hardest. It still needs to be tested at industrial scale, but as a low-cost plant-based way to clean drinking water, this could be exactly the kind of solution the world needs. Now let's talk about HIV. Two big stories landed in the same week, and together they paint a picture of a disease that's losing ground fast. First, the pharmaceutical company Merck is developing a new HIV prevention pill called MK8527. And here's what makes it different. You only have to take it once a month instead of every single day. In phase 2 trials, just one dose was enough to protect people from HIV infection within 24 hours. The pill is now in 2 large phase 3 trials with over 8,000 participants across 16 countries. But here's the headline. A new analysis suggests that once production scales up, MK8527 could be manufactured for less than $5 per patient per year. Current HIV prevention pills cost thousands of dollars per year in many countries. If Merck commits to fair pricing and licensing, this could finally close the access gap that has limited HIV prevention in low and middle income countries for decades. And while the world waits for that pill, another huge milestone just happened in the Caribbean. The World Health Organization has officially certified the Bahamas as having eliminated mother-to-child transmission of HIV and hepatitis B. To get this certification, a country has to prove it has reduced HIV transmission from mother to child to under 2%, with fewer than 5 pediatric infections per 1,000 live births, while keeping 95% or higher coverage for antenatal care. HIV testing and treatment. The Bahamas is now the 11th Caribbean country to hit this milestone, joining Cuba, Brazil, and others. Globally, new HIV infections in children have already fallen by 62% since 2010. We are not just slowing this disease anymore, we are actively beating it. And there's even more good news for our planet. According to 2 independent reports, one from the International Energy Agency and the other from think tank Ember 2025, was a turning point for global energy. For the first time since 1919, renewables produced more electricity worldwide than coal. Let me say that again. The first time in over a century. That's not a small shift. That's a structural change in how the world generates power. And the main reason is solar. Global solar generation grew by 600 terawatt hours in just 1 year. That is the largest absolute increase ever observed for any energy source. Full stop. To put it in perspective, that 1 year jump in solar is double the annual electricity demand of the entire UK. And it's 33% higher than the previous solar growth record, which was set just the year before. Solar growth was so big, it covered 75% of the entire growth in global electricity demand last year. Together with wind, the two of them covered 99% of new demand, which means almost all the additional electricity the world used last year came from clean power. For the first time ever, this caused fossil fuel generation to decline because of a structural shift, not because of an economic crisis or pandemic. The IEA is now calling this the start of the age of electricity, and battery storage is also exploding with capacity additions up 40% from the year before. We have crossed a real threshold, and the trend lines look like they are only going to accelerate from here. Here's a story that sounds like science fiction, but is very much real. Scientists at the Institute of Molecular and Clinical Ophthalmology in Basel have figured out how to deliver healthy mitochondria into specific diseased cells. They call the technology mitoCatch. Now, I know that sounds technical, so let me break it down. Mitochondria are basically the batteries of your cells. They produce the energy that keeps every single cell in your body running, and when they break down, the cell starts to die. This is at the root of some of the most devastating diseases we know. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, certain forms of heart failure, optic nerve degeneration. Diseases we currently have no real cure for. Doctors have tried mitochondria transplants for years. The problem has always been delivery. You can inject healthy mitochondria, but they tend to scatter and don't reach the cells that actually need them. mitoCatch solves this with engineered docking proteins. They tell each healthy mitochondrion exactly which type of cell to attach to, almost like an address label on a package. In their experiments, the researchers successfully delivered healthy mitochondria to neurons, retinal cells, heart cells, and immune cells. Once inside, the new mitochondria functioned normally. They fused with existing mitochondria, and they divided just like native ones. Damaged neurons that received the treatment survived longer, and the team showed it works without triggering an immune response in animal models. We are still years away from this becoming a treatment in humans. But for diseases as terrifying as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, just having a real shot at fixing the underlying cause is a massive step forward. Speaking of medical breakthroughs, scientists may have found a way to reverse fatty liver disease without any change in diet. Now, fatty liver disease, or MASLD as it's officially called now, affects roughly 1 in 4 American adults. And the standard advice has always been the same. Lose weight, exercise more, eat better. Easier said than done. a team of researchers found that a specific type of immune cell in the liver called senescent macrophages builds up over time and drives the inflammation behind fatty liver disease. When they treated mice on a high-fat, high-cholesterol diet with a drug that selectively kills these cells, the results were dramatic. Liver weight dropped from 7% of body weight to a healthy 4 to 5%. The mice's overall body weight dropped by 25%, and their fatty livers actually returned to a healthy red color. A quick caveat, this was only tested in mice. The drug they used is too toxic for humans, so the team is now searching for safer alternatives. But the principle is huge. If we can treat the underlying cause of fatty liver disease, that's a path forward for hundreds of millions of people. By the way, if you're enjoying our videos, don't forget to subscribe for more good news. There are still a few more stories I want to share with you. In the United States, a new study published in the medical journal JAMA brought some genuinely encouraging mental health news. After the launch of the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline in July 2022, suicide deaths among teens and young adults dropped 11% below what researchers had projected. That translates to about 4,400 fewer deaths than expected over 2.5 years. Researchers from Harvard Medical School compared suicide rates across all 50 states. The states that saw the biggest jump in 988 calls also saw the biggest drop in suicide deaths, around 18%. States with lower call volumes saw smaller declines of about 11%. And in older adults who use the hotline less, the effect was much smaller. All of that points to the hotline itself being a real driver of the decline. The 988 line was launched as a 3-digit replacement for the old 10-digit number, and it has been backed by about $1.5 billion in funding. Since launch, it has handled more than 25 million calls, texts, and chats. Researchers also looked at England as a control, and there was no similar trend there, which gives even more confidence that this is really about 988. If you or someone you know is struggling, the number is just 3 digits in the US, 988. I will also put it in the description below. It's rare to get a story about a public health policy that demonstrably works at this scale. This is one of them. And one last story before we wrap up. Moderna has just dosed the first volunteers in a phase 3 trial of an mRNA-based bird flu vaccine. The vaccine targets the H5N1 strain, which has been spreading through bird and dairy populations worldwide, and is one of the strains scientists worry could trigger the next pandemic. This is the first time a pandemic bird flu vaccine built on mRNA technology has reached large-scale human testing. The trial will enroll about 4,000 healthy adults across the UK and the US. Unlike a normal flu vaccine, this one is designed to be stockpiled and rapidly deployed if H5N1 ever starts spreading easily between humans. After COVID, we now know what fast-tracked mRNA vaccines can do. This time we're getting ahead of the threat instead of chasing after it. And honestly, that's a kind of progress that's worth being grateful for. Turns out the world changes quietly. There's another one on your screen right now. The world is better than you think.